The space station Orion Point floated quietly above a dying planet called Zereth. Once, Zereth was full of green forests and blue rivers, but now it was dry, cracked, and lifeless. Storms of red dust covered the surface, and no one lived there. Anymore, or so people thought. Inside the space station, a human worker named Tommel was busy checking cargo. He had short black hair, calm eyes, and a quiet nature. He didn't speak much, but he worked hard. Every day, he moved boxes, fixed machines, and kept to himself. Life on Orion Point was cold and silent, just like the stars outside. One morning, while checking the radar, Tommel noticed something strange. A small ship was floating toward the station. It looked damaged, spinning slowly in space, with no signal or ID code. It was just a tiny shuttle, almost out of power. Most workers ignored it, thinking it was junk. But Tommel felt something was wrong. He called the control room. "There's a ship drifting close," he said. "It might need help." The station commander, an older man named Bren, replied over the comm, "We have no rescue orders. Wait for instructions. Don't do anything." Tommel looked at the screen. The ship was getting closer. It was shaking a little, as if struggling to hold itself together. He waited for a moment, then made a decision. Without telling anyone, Tommel suited up and moved toward the docking bay. He knew he was breaking the rules, but something deep inside told him he had to see what was in that ship. He connected the shuttle manually and opened the hatch. The air inside was thin and cold. The lights were dim. Everything was quiet. Then he heard a small sound, a cough, a weak one. He moved deeper into the shuttle and found two small figures lying near the back wall. They were children, not human. Their skin was pale blue with soft lines on their faces. Their eyes were closed, and they were shivering. They looked like twins, one boy and one girl. Both were thin, wearing torn clothes, and covered in dust. They looked like they hadn't eaten in days. Tommel felt a sharp pain in his chest. He quickly lifted them, one by one, and carried them to the medical room inside Orion Point. The staff were shocked to see him walking with alien children in his arms. "They need help," Tommel said firmly. "They're starving." The doctor scanned them but said the station did not have enough data on their species. "They're Zerati," the doctor said, "from the dead planet below." The commander arrived, his face tight with anger. "You brought them in without permission," he said. "That's against protocol. We don't know if they're dangerous." Tommel did not answer. He sat beside the twins as they lay in the medical bed, still unconscious. He watched them breathe slowly, their small bodies shaking. "They're just kids," he said quietly. The commander ordered a report and said the twins would be kept in isolation until the Central Council decided what to do. "You're not allowed to feed them or speak to them without approval," he warned. Tommel nodded but didn't stop thinking about the children. That night, when everyone was asleep, Tommel returned to the medical bay. He had a small bag with him. Inside were soft bread rolls, dried fruit, and a bottle of clean water. These were his personal rations meant to last him the week. He quietly entered the room and sat beside the children. The boy opened his eyes. They were large and dark. He looked frightened. The girl moved slightly and held her brother's hand. Tommel slowly opened the bag and showed them the food. He tore a piece of bread and offered it to the boy. At first, the boy didn't move. Then, with shaking hands, he took the bread and placed it in his sister's mouth. She chewed slowly, tears running down her cheeks. Tommel smiled softly. The boy took a bite next. Their eyes stayed on Tommel. They didn't speak, but something passed between them, a quiet thank you. Tommel came back every night. He brought food and water. Sometimes he brought pictures and tried to teach them simple words like water or food. The girl was quicker. She repeated sounds softly. The boy was more careful but followed her lead. One day, the girl looked at him and said, "Tom." It was the first time she had spoken a name. Tommel felt a deep warmth in his heart. He nodded and said, "Yes, I'm Tom." From that day, they both called him Tom. News spread that Tommel was spending time with the alien children. Some workers said it was dangerous. Others said it was kind. The commander warned Tommel again, saying the council might remove the twins soon. Tommel didn't care about the warnings. He had seen the pain in the children's eyes. He had watched them come back to life, little by little, each time they ate, drank, or smiled. He began to wonder how many others like them were out there. How many Zarati had survived? How many were still hiding, hungry and scared? The boy and girl, now awake and alert, stayed close to Tommel whenever he was near. They still didn't speak much, but they understood. They had lost everything, but now they had one human who cared. And that was enough for now. Tommel's days began to change. Before, he spent most of his time in the cargo room. Now, whenever he finished his shift, he went straight to the medical bay. That room had become a safe place for the twins. The boy and girl were no longer silent and still. They were weak, but they smiled when they saw Tommel. The girl learned faster. She could now say a few words: Tom, water, food, and safe. The boy stayed quiet, but he watched everything. His eyes followed Tommel's hands, his mouth, his every move. He was learning in silence. Tommel gave them simple names to help with communication. He called the girl Nira and the boy Lyko. The twins seemed to like those names. Nira smiled each time he said hers. Lyko nodded once when Tommel gently spoke his. Tommel brought pictures, fruits, and soft toys from the storage room. Nira liked the soft yellow ball. Lyko liked to hold a small flashlight and turn it on and off. These small things made the twins feel less afraid. Still, they didn't talk about their past. They didn't talk at all unless Tommel asked something simple. One evening, as Tommel gave them warm soup, he asked softly, "Were you alone on the shuttle?" Nira looked at Lyko. Lyko looked down. Tommel waited. After a long silence, Nira whispered one word. "Hide." Tommel understood they had been hiding. But from what? From whom? He asked. "Planet Zirith, your home." Nira nodded. Her hands shook. She pointed at her stomach and said, "No food." Lyko added his voice for the first time. It was soft and broken. He said, "Dark, cold." That night, Tommel sat in his room and stared out the window at the planet below. Zirith looked like a dead stone, turning slowly in the black sky. But now he knew it had life. At least 2 children had escaped, and maybe more were still down there. The next day, Tommel tried to ask more. He brought a tablet and drew pictures. He drew a mountain, a river, and a cave. He showed each to Nira and Lyko. Nira pointed at the cave. "Safe," she said. Then she drew her own picture. Her hand was slow, and her lines were shaky. But Tommel understood. She drew many small people, standing under a roof. Then, one big line above them. He thought it was a tunnel underground. "Were there more?" he asked. Lyko held up 5 fingers. "Then to more." 7? Tommel asked. Lyko nodded. Tommel's heart beat faster. The twins had not been alone. There were others, maybe still alive, maybe still hiding. Later that day, the station commander, Bryn, called Tommel into his office. "You've been spending too much time with those children," he said. "They're learning. They trust me now." Tommel replied. "They're not your responsibility," Bryn said. "The Central Council sent a message. A patrol ship will arrive in 3 days. They'll take the children to an alien care facility." Tommel's hands clenched. "They've been through too much already. Please, let them stay here. They don't belong on this station. And you broke protocol by bringing them in. You're lucky we didn't report that." Tommel left the office in silence, but his mind was racing. He couldn't let the twins be taken away again. He had seen the fear in their eyes. If they were sent somewhere far, they might not survive. That night, he sat beside their beds. "A ship is coming," he said softly. "They want to take you?" Nira's eyes widened. Lyko held her hand tightly. Tommel touched his chest and said, "I will protect you." Nira leaned forward and hugged him. Lyko did the same. The 3 stayed there in silence for a long time. The next morning, Tommel asked for a new task. He told the station that he needed to check old storage bays for damaged cargo. It was half true. He used the time to clean one of the old cargo rooms. It was cold and dusty, but quiet and out of sight. He placed a small bed inside, brought extra food packs, and set up a water tank. He was preparing a secret place, in case the patrol ship came early. Later, he spoke with Dr. Rila, the medical officer. She was kind and trusted Tamil. These children are not just survivors, he told her. They know there are others still down there. Dr. Rila looked at him. Zirth is dead, Tamil. Not to them, he replied. She paused, then gave him a small packet of nutrient pills. They'll help the children stay strong. Don't tell anyone I gave you this. Tamil nodded in thanks. Back in the medical bay, the twins were playing quietly. Lego rolled the yellow ball across the floor. Nira made soft sounds like laughter. Tamil watched them with a heavy heart. They had come so far in just a few days, from silent, shaking children to smiling, playful ones. But now time was running out. He had only 2 more nights before the patrol ship arrived. He didn't have a plan. But he knew one thing for sure. He would not let them be taken. 2 days before the patrol ship's arrival, the space station Orion Point felt different. People whispered in the halls. Faces turned when Tamil walked by. Some looked curious. Others looked nervous. The story of the alien twins had spread. Tamil kept his head down and said nothing. Every free moment, he visited Lego and Nira. He fed them, played simple games, and helped them practice more words. Water, Nira said with a smile. Safe. Lego repeated softly. Tamil smiled, but deep. Inside, he felt the weight of time. Soon, strangers would come and take the children away. That evening, while returning from the medical bay, Tamil was stopped by a tall alien guard named Vero. His skin was gray and smooth, and his eyes were narrow. You're the human who brought the Zerati, Vero said. Tamil nodded. Yes, I did. Vero stepped closer. You broke station rules. You helped without permission. They were starving. I couldn't leave them to die, Tamil replied calmly. Vero stared at him for a few seconds, then said, Be careful. Not everyone wants them here. Tamil didn't answer. He simply walked past Vero and returned to his room. But he now knew others were watching. He had to move fast. Later that night, when the station was quiet, Tamil entered the medical bay. Once more, Lego and Nira were awake. Nira was sitting up, drawing on a small tablet. She was drawing a picture of the underground shelter from her memory. Tamil whispered, Come with me. The twins followed him without question. They trusted him completely. He led them through a back hallway to the cargo section. There, behind a stack of old containers, he opened a hidden door. Inside was the small room. He had prepared a soft mat to sleep, a small light, water, and food. This is a new safe place, he said. Lego and Nira looked around and nodded to Mill. Gave them warm jackets and wrapped blankets around them. I'll come each night. You must stay quiet here, he said. And Ira pointed at the ground. Hide, she said. To Mill nodded. Before leaving, he checked the door twice to make sure no one could see inside. Then he walked away, acting normal. The next morning, the medical bay was empty. The doctor asked where the twins were, but Tamil said nothing. He just shrugged and walked on. By afternoon, the commander announced a meeting in the control room. All workers were told to attend. Tamil sat near the back. The commander stood in front and said, Tomorrow, a patrol ship will dock. The alien children will be taken for protection and care by trained experts. Some workers clapped. A few stayed silent. We cannot keep unknown aliens on this station. That is the rule. The commander said. Mill stood up. With respect. Sir, they are not dangerous. They are just children. They need time to heal. The commander frowned. This is not a debate. Tamil sat down again, but now many people were watching him closely. After the meeting, Tamil returned to his room. He looked over an old map of the station. He had worked here for many years. He knew every hallway and storage bay. If the patrol team started searching, they might find the children. He needed a better plan. That night, he returned to the twins' hiding spot. They were waiting quietly, playing with a small light. Tamil sat down beside them. They're coming tomorrow, he said. Lego reached out and took his hand. I don't know what to do. Tamil whispered. Then Lego surprised him. He pointed to the tablet and drew a circle with small dots around it. Then he drew a bigger shape with a line to the side. Tamil realized it was a map. Is this a place? He asked. Nira nodded. Home, she said. Underground? Lego nodded and pointed again. 7 dots, 7 people. You think others are still alive? Tamil asked. Yes, Nira said. Tamil's mind raced. If they could prove more Zarati survivors were still on the planet, maybe the council wouldn't take the twins away. Maybe they would offer help instead. But the surface of Zerith was dangerous. No one had gone down in years. He looked at the twins. They were both tired but hopeful. They believed in something more. He stood up. Tomorrow, I'll try to speak with someone who can help, someone who listens. He left them with extra food and water. That morning, Tamil went to find Dr. Rila. I believe the twins know where other survivors are, he said. Rila looked surprised. That's a big claim. They drew maps. They spoke of tunnels. 7 people still alive, maybe more. If it's true, the council should know, she said. They won't believe me, but they might believe you, Tamil said. Rila thought for a moment, then nodded. I'll speak to the ambassador's office. Tamil felt a small wave of relief. But his worry was not over. The patrol ship was coming in hours. As he walked down the hall, Vero appeared again. You moved the children, Vero said. Tamil didn't answer. I followed you last night. I know where they are, Vero said. Tamil's heart sank. Please, don't tell anyone. Vero looked at him. His face was serious, but his voice was calm. You think saving 2 children matters? Tamil said. Yes, it always matters. Vero stared at him for a long time. Then he turned away. I saw nothing, he said. But be careful, Tamil. That night, as the patrol ship approached, Tamil sat beside the twins one last time. Tomorrow, everything might change, he said. Nira leaned on his shoulder. Lego closed his eyes. Tamil didn't sleep that night. He stayed close, listening to every sound in the station. Morning was coming. So was the choice. The patrol ship arrived just after sunrise. It was large and quiet, with silver wings that reflected the pale light from the nearby star. People on the space station stopped their work and watched from the windows as the ship docked. The engines hissed softly, and the doors opened with a heavy sound. Tamil stood near a supply cart, watching from the shadows. His heart was beating fast. He knew the twins were still safe in the hidden room, but that could change at any moment. 3 officers stepped out from the ship. One was human, wearing a dark uniform. The other 2 were aliens from the council's security group. They moved quickly, asking for the location of the Zarati children. Commander Bryn met them in the docking area. The children were last seen in the medical bay. He said, but they are now missing. Tamil stayed silent. He kept his eyes low and his hands busy, pretending to fix a broken wheel on the cart. The officers gave orders. Search the station. Check every room, every hallway. We must recover the children for protection and transfer. Tamil slipped away before they could question him. He returned to the secret cargo room, where Lego and Nira waited quietly. Nira was sitting near the water tank, holding her yellow ball. Lego was drawing again. This time, he had sketched a strange plant with long leaves and small seeds. Tamil asked, what is this? Nira touched the drawing and said, food, Tamil. Remember the survival crate stored deep in the cargo area? Many years ago, human missions carried special seeds that could grow in hard soil with little light. Maybe they were still here. Maybe they could help. He left the twins and searched an old storage room marked for disposal. It was dusty and dark, but inside he found a crate labeled Emergency Growth Kit, Gen 3. He opened it. Inside were small bags of seeds, soil blocks, and to growing lamps. Tamil carried the box back to the secret room. He set everything up. The lamp gave a soft white glow. He placed the soil blocks in a large tray and gently pressed the seeds into them. This is earth food, he told the twins. It grows fast. It's strong. Just like you. Every few hours, he checked the soil. The first green shoots appeared after a day. The twins watched the plants with wide eyes. They had never seen anything grow before. Tommel smiled and said, "This is hope." Meanwhile, the station was in chaos. The patrol officers could not find the twins. Rooms were locked. Doors were scanned. Everyone was questioned. Dr. Rila finally met with the human officer in private. "There is more to this than you think," she said. "The children may know of other survivors. We should not move them until we understand everything." The officer frowned. "Our job is to follow council orders, not guess about missing aliens." Dr. Rila stood firm. "At least wait until we confirm if their story is true." That evening, Tommel brought Nira a small cup of clean soup. Lyko was watching the plants grow, his face calm. "I told a friend about your drawing," Tommel said. "She wants to help." Nira looked up. "Safe, yes," Tommel said. "But we must be careful. We don't have much time." Suddenly, the door beeped. Tommel's heart jumped. He stood in front of the twins. Then he heard a voice. "It's me, Rila." He opened the door. Dr. Rila stepped inside. She looked at the plants, the children, and the small space that had become their home. "You've done more than anyone else on this station," she said softly. Tommel replied, "I couldn't leave them. They trust me." Rila bent down and looked at Lyko's drawings. "These tunnels, these people, if they're real, we can't send the twins away." Tommel nodded. "We need to send a message to the council. We need time." Rila gave him a small data chip. "I recorded everything. The plants, the maps, the condition of the children. I'll send it tonight, but you must stay hidden." Tommel thanked her. The next day, the plants had grown even more. Bright green leaves reached toward the light. Nira touched them gently and smiled. Lyko whispered the word life. Tommel felt something change inside him. For the first time in years, he felt real purpose. Not just moving cargo or checking boxes, but saving lives. But trouble was near. Vero, the gray-skinned guard, found Tommel later that day. "I know what you're doing," Vero said. Tommel stayed quiet. "You're feeding them. You're hiding them. You're growing earth food." Tommel looked at Vero. "They're not a danger. They're children." Vero paused. "I was once a child in war," Vero said. "No one helped me." Tommel said, "Then you understand." Vero looked away. "I won't report you, but others might. Be ready." That night, Tommel couldn't sleep. He stayed near the plants, watching them sway under the light. Nira and Lyko slept close together, their breathing soft and even. He whispered to the plants, "Grow faster. We need you." The patrol officers were getting frustrated. They began scanning the cargo areas. They locked doors. They sent drones through the air vents. Time was running out. The next morning, Dr. Rila came again. The council replied. She said. Mill stood still. "They want proof, real proof, that others are alive. Otherwise, they will take the children tomorrow." Tommel looked at the twins. "They gave us one chance," he said. He had made a promise to keep them safe. Now he had to risk everything to keep it. The station lights were dim when Tommel stood near the secret cargo room. He looked at the small growing plants. Their leaves were wider now, reaching toward the soft lamp. Life was growing in silence, deep inside a place where no one expected. Nira was still asleep, her arms wrapped around the soft yellow ball. Lyko was awake, watching the door. His face was calm, but his eyes showed he understood what was happening. Tommel whispered, "They want proof. They want to know your story is true." Lyko reached for the tablet. He opened his map again. The lines showed caves and tunnels. He added something new, a blinking red mark, a signal. Tommel leaned closer and realized it was a code. "You remember how to send a message?" Tommel asked. Lyko nodded. "Old signal. Safe place." Tommel stared at the screen. If they could send that signal, maybe someone on Zirith would hear it. If even one person replied, it could change everything. Later that morning, Tommel met Dr. Rila in a quiet hallway. He told her about the signal. She listened carefully, then said, "We'll use a private channel, one not watched by the patrol." They returned to her lab. Lyko followed, holding the tablet close. He connected it to the station console. His hands moved slowly. but with care. The code was old, but he remembered it well. They sent the signal. A soft beep followed, then silence. Tommel's heart sank. Maybe no one was left. Maybe they were too late. But after 3 long minutes, a new beep came. A message appeared on the screen. We are here. 7 remain. Food is gone. Help needed. Tommel read the words twice. His hands shook. Who's it? He asked. Lyko looked at the message, then whispered, Kale, your brother? Tommel asked. Lyko nodded. Dr. Rila quickly saved the message and sent it to the council with a full report. Now they had proof. The children had not lied. Others were alive. Tommel felt hope rise again. But the danger was not over. The patrol officers called a final meeting. Commander Bren, the security team, and all workers were present. Tommel stood near the back with Rila beside him. The council officers spoke first. We have received a new message. There are survivors on the surface of Zereth. Whispers filled the room. We will now send a team to rescue them. Until then, the children will remain under human care. Tommel breathed deeply. They had bought time. But then, the officer added, we need someone to lead the mission. Someone who knows the station, the cargo ships, and how to move carefully. Eyes turned toward Tommel. You brought the children here. The officer said, will you help bring their people back? Tommel nodded. Yes, I'll go. Later that evening, Tommel visited the twins. He told them about the message, about Kale, about the mission. Nira's eyes filled with tears. Kale, alive? She asked. Yes, Tommel said. We will bring him back. He packed a small ship with food, water, blankets, and tools. Vero, the Grey Guard, surprised him by showing up. I'm going with you, Vero said. Tommel looked at him. Why? Vero replied, because they trusted you, and you trusted them. I want to see what made you believe. The ship launched at dawn. Zereth looked red and silent from above, but as they flew lower, the dust clouds cleared. Broken buildings, dry rivers, and black scars from fire covered the land. Tommel followed the signal Lyko had sent. The map guided them to a mountain ridge. There, Vero pointed. That crack leads underground. They landed near the rocks. The air outside was thin and dry. They wore suits to breathe safely. Inside the tunnel, they moved slowly. Flashlights lit the path. Old stone walls and broken metal frames lined the sides. Then they heard a soft voice. A call. Help, here. They followed the sound. 7 Zerati stood in a dark room, thin, tired, and weak. One of them stepped forward. Kale, Tommel said. Kale nodded. His face was pale, but his eyes were bright. Lyko, Nira. He asked, they're safe, Tommel said. We came for you. They handed out food and water. The survivors ate slowly, their hands shaking. Vero stared at them in silence. Tommel spoke gently. We'll take you back. You'll be safe now. They walked together toward the ship. As they lifted off, Kale looked at the stars and whispered, thank you. Back on Orion Point, the council had received the news. Dr. Rila stood at the landing bay as the ship returned. Nira and Lyko were waiting. When they saw Kale step out, they ran forward. The 3 hugged tightly. Tommel watched, quiet but smiling. Commander Bren walked over. You did something great, he said. Tommel shook his head. I just did what was right. The council decided to send more help to the planet. Food, water, shelter, and care. The story of the twins and their brave brother reached many ears. Tommel returned to his room that night. He looked at the stars. 2 children had changed everything. And 1 human had made the choice to care. Orion Point felt different now. The silence of the past was replaced by soft voices, careful footsteps, and quiet smiles. The return of the Zerati survivors had brought a new feeling to the space station, a feeling of life. Tommel walked through the halls with a small cart full of supplies. He had been helping Kale and the other Zerati settle into a clean section of the station. The council had given them a safe space for recovery. It wasn't big, but it was warm and full of care. Kale sat beside a window, watching the stars. Nira and Lyko sat close to him, holding his arms. They were still weak but smiled more each day. Tom arrived with the cart. Time for food, he said with a gentle smile. Kale stood and helped pass out the bowls of warm soup. The others sat together on soft mats, eating slowly and peacefully. Kale looked at Tommel. I thought we would never be rescued, he said in a quiet voice. You stayed alive. Tommel replied. That gave us a chance to find you. Kale nodded. The underground shelter had water and a little food, but it ran out fast. We waited every day, hoping for help. Tommel asked, how did you survive after that? Kale explained. We shared small amounts. We took turns resting. Some never woke up. We sent the twins away in a shuttle. It was broken, but it was our only hope. I told Lyko how to send the signal if he ever found someone. Tommel listened carefully. His respect for the Zerati grew even more. You gave them a chance, he said. Kale replied. And they found you. Later that day, Commander Bryn called for a meeting. All staff and guests were invited to the main hall. A new order had come from the council. Tommel, Kale, Rila, Vero, and many others stood together. Bryn spoke first. The council has confirmed it will begin a support program for Zerati survivors. There were soft cheers from the crowd. Bryn continued. They will send food, medicine, and rescue ships to search the old planet. But the mission will need someone to lead it. All eyes turned to Tommel. He already risked his job and his safety, Bryn said. Now we ask him to lead again. Tommel stood quietly, then nodded. I'll go. I know where to look. And I won't be alone. Kale stepped forward. I'll go with him. Rila smiled. So will I. Vero raised his hand. Me too. The team was ready. They prepared for the next mission. Tommel studied maps of Zereth. Kale helped mark possible tunnels where more people might be hiding. They packed tools, strong light suits, clean water, and boxes of the growing earth crops. The plants that Tommel and the twins had started in the hidden room were now full and green. The food they gave was simple but full of energy, enough to keep a person strong for days. Tommel filled 10 boxes with those crops. These seeds saved the twins. He said, now they'll help more. The day before the mission, Tommel visited Nira and Lyko. The twins sat in a small garden area where new plants were being grown. A small group of children, human and alien, were watching the leaves. With wonder, Nira looked up. Going, Tommel nodded. Yes, we'll try to find more survivors. Lyko stood and hugged him. Safe, he said. Tommel smiled. I will be. Kale hugged his siblings, then walked with Tommel to the ship. The new mission ship was larger and stronger than the last one. It had extra rooms for supplies and a medical area. As the team climbed aboard, workers and crew stood by to wish them luck. Bryn stepped forward and shook Tommel's hand. You changed this place, he said. To Mill replied. I just helped 2 children who needed food. The ship left Orion Point and headed toward the surface of Zereth once again. The planet looked the same, red, dry, and broken. But now, Tommel didn't see it as empty. He saw it as full of stories still waiting to be told. The team landed near a new set of mountains. The old maps showed a mining station below. If anyone had survived there, they might still be alive. Kale and Vero led the way. Rila followed with the medical scanner. Tommel carried the crop box and the signal light. They walked through cracked tunnels and rusty doors. The air was dry, but the scanner picked up a soft pulse. Movement, Rila said. Faint, but real. They moved carefully and called out. A weak voice answered. In here, please. They entered a dark chamber. 5 Zerati stood slowly. Their faces were thin, but their eyes lit up at the sight of Kale. You came back, one whispered. Kale nodded. We found help. Tommel handed out the crop bars. The survivors held them like treasures and began to eat. Tears filled one woman's eyes. No one ever came before, she said. To Mill said, now we will keep coming. The team helped the new survivors back to the ship. On the way, Kale asked Tommel, what will happen after all this? Tommel looked at the stars above and said, we build again. Together, when they returned to Orion Point, Nira and Lyko were waiting at the window. They waved as the ship docked. Tommel stepped out with a quiet smile. Hope had returned to a broken planet, and the mission was just beginning. The sun rose slowly above Orion Point, casting golden light on the wide metal panels of the station. The day felt calm, but it was not an ordinary day. It was the day of a new beginning for humans and for the Zerati. Tamil stood at the garden section, watching the plants grow in their neat rows. The crops were green and healthy, much stronger than before. Round him, children helped water the plants. Some were human, some Zerati, but they worked together like they had always known each other. Faster than last time, said Kale, walking over with a small tool in his hand. Tamil nodded. The soil we mixed with the dust from Zerith is helping. It holds water better. Kale smiled. It's funny. A planet that almost ended us might help feed us now. More survivors have been found in the last few weeks. Tamil, Kale, Rila, and Vero had made 3 rescue trips. Each time, they brought back weak but hopeful Zerati. Some could walk. Some had to be carried. All of them cried when they saw the twins waiting for them at the station. Nira and Lyko were doing well. Their health had returned, and they were learning fast. Nira had started helping in the medical room. Lyko helped sort seeds in the garden. They both spent time with Tamil every day. Tamil, Lyko said, running to him now, they're here. The council ship arrived. Tamil brushed off his hands and followed Lyko. Near the center of the station, a large white ship had just docked. Officials stepped out. Some wore long coats. Some had tech gear. All had serious faces. Commander Bryn greeted them first. Welcome to Orion Point, the lead official. A calm man named Marin stepped forward. We come in peace, and we come with a question. Bryn looked at Tamil and nodded. Tamil stepped forward. Marin spoke again. The High Council watched your reports. They saw how one human helped bring hope to another species. They saw how the alien children saved their people, and how both sides shared food, care, and trust. Tamil said nothing. He simply stood, letting the truth speak for itself. Marin continued. Now we must decide. Shall the humans and Zerati live apart as before, or shall we live together, build together, and trust each other? A soft silence fell over the area. Then a small voice spoke up. We're already doing it, Nira said. Everyone turned. Nira stood beside her brother. We eat together. We grow together. Why should we stop? Lyko added. We don't need to be the same. We just need to be kind. A few council members smiled. Others looked thoughtful. Kale stepped forward. Our people were lost. We thought no one cared. But one human did. That's enough to begin again. Tamil finally spoke. This station is no longer just a human base. It's a home for anyone who wants peace. Marin looked around. He saw human doctors helping Zerati elders. He saw alien builders working. Beside human engineers, he saw children laughing, playing, sharing. He turned back to the council ship and pressed a small button on his device. The council agrees. He said, Orion Point will become a shared colony, a symbol of unity, a place for hope. There was soft cheering. Some clapped, others simply smiled and held each other. Tamil felt his chest grow warm. He looked at Nira and Lyko, who were grinning. Later that evening, a small celebration was held in the main hall. Music played softly. Simple food was shared. People told stories of the past and dreams of the future. Kale sat with his younger brother and sister, holding their hands. Rila and Vero laughed as they helped set up new plant lights for the garden. Tamil sat quietly at the edge, watching it all. Bryn walked over and sat beside him. Bryn said, You didn't just change the twins' lives. You changed this whole station. Tamil smiled. I didn't plan it. I just saw the hungry children and gave them food. Bryn nodded. Sometimes. That's where real change begins. Days turned into weeks. The shared colony grew stronger. New homes were built. New fields were planted. A school was started both in the human language and the Zerati language. Tamil began training new volunteers for search missions. Kale joined as a teacher. Rila led the health unit. Vero helped design new energy lines between the station and the outer garden domes. One morning, Tamil walked through the garden with Lyko. The boy held a small data pad with drawings of a new Shuttle, you want to fly one day? Tommel asked. Lyko nodded. I want to find other planets where we can plant these crops. Tommel smiled. Maybe you'll teach me how to fly, too. Lyko grinned. Deal. As they walked, Tommel looked up at the sky. Far beyond those stars, there were still broken places, lonely people, and dark corners of the universe. But here, on Orion Point, light had returned. It started with a simple act. One human, two alien children, a small piece of bread, and now it had become something greater. A home for all, a story of hope, a lesson for the galaxy.